Hello, everyone. Thank you. My name is Simon Wright. I'm the Director of Programming here at Japan House London. And welcome to this event with Kathleen Reilly. So we welcome Kathleen as a metalworker, an artist and designer. And she'll tell us more about her Dezeen Award winning design, the Oku butter knife, and her journey from Scotland to the RCA and later to Tsubame-Sanjo in Niigata Prefecture, where she studied Japanese metalworking traditions. What makes today's talk really quite special is that not only do we have a very talented guest, but also the fact that Kathleen's visit to Japan House London back in 2018 played quite an important role in her journey as an artist and designer. But we'll hear a little bit more about that later. In addition to our guests here in Japan House, in the hall, we're also broadcasting to a virtual audience on Zoom, YouTube, Facebook, X, and LinkedIn. So a warm welcome to everyone online. The event is being recorded, and for everyone, there'll be a recording available on our social media platforms later. At the end of the event as well, there'll be an opportunity for you to ask questions. If you have any while we're speaking, you can make a note of them. That applies to everybody online as well through Zoom. Before we start, let me just briefly introduce Kathleen. She is a Scottish artist and metalworker with over 10 years experience while living both in the UK and in Japan. She graduated from the Glasgow School of Art, the silversmithing and jewelry department in 2015, and completed her master's in jewelry and metal at the Royal College of Art here in London in 2018. In 2019, she moved to Japan on the Daiwa Scholarship, and from 2020 to 2022, she trained with artisans in the Tsubame-Sanjo area of Niigata, where she developed Oku, which won the Dezeen Award's homeware design in 2022. Congratulations to that. Please join me in welcoming Kathleen Reilly. Thank you very much. But before we start, I would like to show you a short film. It's about 7 minutes long, and it's a digest about the Biology of Metal exhibition, which Kathleen came and saw in 2018. Kathleen makes an appearance in the film as well. The exhibition was called Biology of Metal, Metal Craftsmanship in Tsubame-Sanjo. So, before we hear from Kathleen,
この土地で培われてきた技術や道具を体系的にご紹介するというエキシビジョンだったものですから、やりがスタートで、いろんな交流ですとか、僕らの気づきだとか、この後の行動が変わってくるとかっていうところにつながってきてるなという感覚はすごくあります。でここが大体ジャパンスロンドンの展示室と同じぐらいの大きさの部屋になるので、この部屋を使ってシミュレーションしました。なるべく来場者の動線を再現して、ここがジャパンスロンドンのスタクチャの入り口で、ここが炎のグラフィックが入った感じで、ここが、表側がツバメ産業の地域の紹介で、裏側が桑の展示というのを再現して実際に。
So after visiting the show at Japan House London, I knew that obviously the skill and the excellency in Japanese production, I think it gave me that final push to know that in Japan would be the right connection for this, or where to gain knowledge through a factory.
私らは日本紙するって言い方するんですが、ああいうものは本当のマイナーでね、本当のちっちゃい市場ですので、ね、 ああいうところに日の目を見てね、もう皆さんがもうみんなびっくりされるんでね、もう正直びっくりしましたね、私の方がね。
一人の人は2日来ていただいて、1日目は俺はこういう道具を使ってるんだ。だから2日目になったら、俺が使ってるのはこの道具だって言って持ってこられて、でその道具についてまたこう一話始まるんですよ。かなり長い時間やってられたので、海外は暑いなと、日本人が暑いんじゃなくて海外の人がもっと暑くなって、それがすごく嬉しかったです。
It's something really incredible that it's there. You can really see the extremely crafted, bespoke metal works right next to the mass-produced, high-quality cutleries.
After the visit to Tsubame-Sanjo, the students came to us and asked if if they can go back and work with these craftsmen to work on either their design or develop a design idea. And we thought, wow, that would be great if that's possible.
製品が展示の仕方によっては商品になるんだというのをちょっと見ました。日本だとか海外だとかっていうことが案外関係なくて、その技術とかもの自体は結構そういう世界を超えて伝わるんだろうなという感覚は得ました。
要するに国がしている伝統工芸品ですけどね、その選定は結局クワワも入ってないのは作り方が変わってきたからなんです。だからその伝統工芸品にはなっていないということで、それだけなんですよ。
いや自分でもあんまり綺麗で驚きましたこんなに私の綺麗だったかなと思って、要するにライトがついたり、やっぱりそういういい空間にあったからなんでしょうね。なんか光ってすごく綺麗だなと思って。
And from there, or whilst we were there, we were introduced to a few of the craftspeople, which we then invited down to our workshop to show them around and show them kind of how we've interpreted Japanese knife making.
逆に彼ら、何もないところから、ここまで、ものづくりをしてきたっていうことにすごく情熱を感じてですね、僕らが、感動して、お前ら一回燕三条に来いと。今度は、例えるならロイヤルアカデミーみたいな、ロイヤルアカデミーの鍛冶屋版みたいな、こういったものを燕三条に作って、世界中からその鍛冶屋を目指す若い子たちが、集まるような場所にしていければいいなというふうに、改めて感じました。
This idea of showing a region and showing off a region, celebrating a region to local people and then to national and then on an international level, which they're able to do now with the Factory Festival, I think will give some really important lessons of the way we can celebrate the skills that we have in the UK.
僕らは町工場でやってる職人さんの姿そのものを見せることで、一つのその解決策にしていこうというふうな活動を、この6年7年やってきた、そこのメンバーが中心となって、今回の、企画展ができたんですけど、それをこうロンドンでこのオープンファクトリーに取り組むっていうのは間違ってないんだっていうことを確信させてもらった、そんなところが僕がもらったなんかプレゼントっていうかですね。
I hope you enjoyed that. I hope it gave you some context as to why we're here really as well today. I even noticed
Yeah.
the book that Kathleen has written.
I'm being very nostalgic also. It's nice to see so many familiar faces in the video as well. Now I've studied in Tsubame-Sanjo.
Of course, you know them all, don't you?
Yeah, not quite all of them, but nearly.
Wonderful. So maybe shall we start? Where did this all begin?
Yes, let's start. So as Simon kindly introduced, I'm from Glasgow and I studied at Glasgow School of Art. So I studied silversmithing and jewellery in the Charles Rennie Mackintosh building, which as a Scottish architect is really inspired by Japanese aesthetic. And, you know, growing up in that environment and being able to study in that building, which is unfortunately no longer there, it really had a huge impact on me as a designer and also an artist, of thinking about the potential of merging, you know, these two cultures, Eastern and Western, to create something really innovative and inspiring. So I graduated from Glasgow School of Art, and I have always had that really in my mind, and I set off for RCA. And then in 2018, I just graduated from Jewellery and Metalwork in London at Royal College of Art, and it was perfect timing. The Biology of Metal show was on for London Design Festival, and I came, and the moment I came into the exhibition space, I was like, wow, I need to go here and train and learn about the secrets of the metalwork industry. I was just so like taken by how much skill was in such a small town and the multitude of factories all working together. So that's kind of where it all began and led to, yeah.
Fantastic, thank you. Just as when you turned up at that time. So you met some people at the exhibition, yes?
Yeah, so
from Tsubame-Sanjo.
Yeah, exactly. So I've always been interested in cutlery, as you can see, as we've led to a cutlery design here. So Oizumi-Busan, which is actually where I ended up doing my training, in Tsubame-Sanjo, was one of the participants in the Biology of Metal exhibition, and they had a beautiful display of their cutlery, which is made in partnership with Kaibo Jensen, which is a very renowned Danish designer. And I went to his talk. He was doing a talk. I was like, I really want to know some more about this factory and, you know, hear what they're doing there in Tsubame-Sanjo. And they told us, like, basically his father had met Kaibo Jensen in New York at like a trade show, and they started this like beautiful collaboration and ended up producing this wonderful cutlery. And he was so kind. We spoke through a translator, gave me some. I was like, I want to do some training or internship. Is there like any chance? He gave me some connections, and then I searched endlessly for a way, and I found Daiwa scholarship after that. So that's kind of where that led to.
So that's the Daiwa scholarship, which is for the Daiwa Anglo-Japanese.
Yeah, so Daiwa Anglo-Japanese Foundation, they offer every year around 6 to 8 promising scholars or academics, really from any field, a chance to go to Japan, learn Japanese, and then do like a 6-month training in their specialism. So for me, I had already had it in my mind. I wanted to go to Tsubame-Sanjo, and I wrote that in my proposal, and I was lucky enough to get selected. So I had my 1 year in Tokyo. I had no Japanese experience before embarking on the Daiwa scholarship. So it was a huge challenge, but it gave me such important tools for me to then communicate with the factory workers. You know, I think one of my close friends who's Japanese, lives in Tsubame-Sanjo, probably her and maybe 2 more could speak English, but other than that, it was all Japanese for the full time I was there. So I was really grateful to the scholarship for pushing me.
You say lucky. It's a very prestigious award, so not many people get it. So
yeah, I'm humbled.
Congratulations.
I'm humbled to have been selected.
Wonderful, thank you. So this is Oizumi-Busan. This is some of their cutlery.
Yeah, so this is actually their Kaibo Jensen spoons. I think they would be the dinner spoons that they're in the polishing machine. So these are some images that I took with a photographer during my time there, during my training, which was 6 months. But, you know, 6 months is actually a very short time. So I ended up staying 2 years in Tsubame-Sanjo.
I mean, most people go to an office, don't they, when they do the Daiwa scholarship or work in a big corporate building somewhere.
Yeah, it's true. Yeah, quite different. And yeah, these are, so the right hand side is like the kanagata or the steel mold. So this one is tongs. So they're being oiled to keep them from rusting while they're being stored. And then on the side here, we've got a fork being made in the press machine at Oizumibu-san's factory. So it was really like an amazing experience to be like, I had like a little desk that they made me like in an office, but like literally this is the kind of office and the factory is right here. So I can be in this room and in the factory in like 10 seconds. And like they just opened their arms to me like a family and let me just like, well, not run around, you know, I'm being very sensible in the factory, but it's just look at all these molds. It's such a rare experience for people. So it was, yeah, it's such an amazing experience. And I learned so much about cutlery design.
Now, I suppose one good thing is that the factories in Tsubame-Sanjo take part in this Koba no Saiten.
Yeah, exactly.
October, is that right?
Yeah, every October. So it's coming up.
So if you're going to Japan, next month.
Yes, get in the diary.
And Koba no Saiten was the inspiration for the Biology of Metal exhibition, but it does mean that they are open to having people have a look inside and see what the factories are like. So
yeah, every year. So a very rare opportunity as well. Yeah, and these are, so I just showed a picture of the cutlery molds and also one of them being pressed. So this is kind of the big, like generations old machines that they have at Oizumibu-san factory, and they're, you know, pressing all of the factory, not all of the factory, all of the cutlery daily in the factory, which are really amazing machines. And they're so well kept, like, yeah, to go through generations of craftsmen and also, you know, Oizumi-san's dad and that, etc. So really amazing to see.
are most of these factories family owned? Are they quite small?
Yeah, like in my experience, I can't speak for all of them, of course, but most of the factories I've been with or have friends there or like associated with, they're all generations and generations. Some going back like 100, some like 400. Yeah, pretty amazing.
So here, I think we have some here. Is this also design?
So this is as I said, I was supposed to stay 6 months in Tsubame-Sanjo. I ended up being two years. I was also like able to visit many other factories and learn like many different crafts and techniques. So this is Hinoura, which is like a forging kind of bladesmith in Sanjo. So they have Tsubame, which is the north, and Sanjo, which is the south, right? So Sanjo is more famous for forging, like blade work. So this is one of the factories there that I kindly was given a tour of. And I think they're also participated in the Biology of Metal exhibition, right?
You're quite right.
They're in that brochure.
In this, we did actually an interview with them.
Yeah.
This is the father, Hinoura Tsukasa, yes, and then his son Hinoura Mutsumi.
Yeah, Mutsumi-san, yeah.
Exactly, and you say exactly Tsubame-Sanjo, just so that people understand. Sanjo is the southern part where noted for forging, and Tsubame is more for.
I guess kind of steel processing. Most of the cutlery factories are definitely there. So more
polishing, yeah.
Polishing, yeah. So this is the same factory and like a close-up shot of them forging one of their knives. And then me and Mutsumi-san, so the son of the current shacho, who's kind of taking over the business and learning the ropes. So that's it, passing down to the generations. So another factory that I became really close with is Gyokusendo, who I guess they've got a history of over 400 years, right? So I mean, this beautiful garden, I couldn't not put this picture in. So it's just such an experience to visit this workshop. From just the craftsmen are working on the tatami, forging their copperware workshop, and then experience drinking tea in the beautiful showroom and the garden, etc. So I was really lucky to become close friends with them, and they also helped me with some logistics. And with Oku, as one of the staff also speaks English there, so that was very helpful. So I'm really lucky to have such a supportive network. And Gyokusendo was definitely one of them.
We saw on the film when people were coming in, we had Gyokusendo, all the hammering and And there is an intangible cultural heritage as well.
Yeah, they're really like one of the, I wouldn't want to say icon, but a really important figure in Tsubame-Sanjo. And this is some footage of them. They do all their like patina, really old school style in these big wooden drums, and they're all full of different kind of chemicals and different temperatures to do their patination, which is the coloring the copper. So they've got like a beautiful array of different colors that they use for their kettles and teapots. So this is a really like a on the factory floor, workshop floor image, and some polishing of the spouts of their teapots and kettles as well that I was often seeing. And then one of the beautiful kettles. And this is, you can see the different patination techniques. So there's more of a black color down here, and then perhaps a raw copper or like a slight tinge of red. So such a diverse range of skills in Tsubame-Sanjo.
Thank you. And then?
So then moving on to, I guess why we're here, I'm not sure. So yeah, from 6 months to 2 years and a little bit longer, I developed oku in Tsubame-Sanjo, and we produced a multitude of samples over that time to get it to where it is today. And the design is inspired by chopsticks and chopstick rests and kind of Japanese place setting. And
next one.
Slide.
What is oku?
Oku? Yeah, maybe I should say what is oku. So oku is my knife design. So it's a butter knife, and it comes in a set with a board made with kaimoku furniture, Japan's leading wooden furniture manufacturer. So it's a new butter knife design, basically with a unique folded handle. And this is some samples. While I wasn't always in Busan developing the design, this is some samples and images of the samples getting made that we'll talk a little bit about soon.
Okay. So.
Yeah, so a little bit about the concept, I guess. So you can see some sketches here and then some images of the final design and the kind of unique folded handle at 90 degrees. So basically living in Japan, I became, like I said, really inspired by place setting and chopsticks and chopstick rests and kind of the like hygienic nature of keeping your blade or your chopstick off of the table. And I thought that this could be something really interesting to then bring to Western culture. For example, I was comparing my upbringing with what I was seeing in Japan. And I was thinking, the curve of a fork or a spoon allows it to rest like very stably on the edge of a plate. But a knife, like the flatness of the knife, for me, I don't know if it's my clumsiness, I'm not sure, but it often slides, there's something that I felt like could just, that Japanese way of just elevating it a little bit to make it still recognizable, but subtly just that little bit better. I'm not sure. So that was kind of where I was inspired by. And I thought if we could bend the handle in a way that it was still kind of sleek and simple, we could improve the function and allow it to rest stably on the edge of a board or a plate and, allow the design to be a little bit more hygienic than your standard knife, I hope.
I mean, it's deceptively simple, it seems, but I mean, we'll have a little look a little bit later, but let's look at some more pictures here.
Yeah, so this is maybe easy to understand the kind of the concept and the idea. So we have the chopsticks and the chopstick rest, and then we have the board that oku is sold with as it comes with as a set, and then you can see the way that the design kind of elegantly wraps. I hope it's elegantly wraps around the edge of the board, just like so, and that's keeping it off of the table or off of I guess falling onto the floor or whatever might happen in your kitchen, I'm not sure. Keeping it stably balanced.
And the name oku, I mean, am I right? Does it mean oku meaning to?
Yes, okimasu, to place or to put. Yes. And these are some images, I guess, of it in action. So you can see how it can be hooked onto the rim of a plate, or, for example, after spreading with a scone jam, on a scone, you can just rest it on the edge to simply keep the, you know, jam from, I don't know, getting somewhere you don't want it to be. And yeah, this is the design is very simple, but it has been considered over and over again. So this is a few little sketches, and you can see it is actually very comfortable to hold. I've made sure that the inside of the handle is curved and smooth, so it fits nice into the palm, and then the index finger would stay at the top of the handle like so. So even though it is a different design folded, it is also nice to feel in the palm, I hope.
No, wonderful indeed. Thank you so much, actually. And at Japan House, we're very much interested in process, and Kathleen has very kindly brought several iterations of the process. So we can move to the camera, yes, so that you can.
Yeah, so I brought a few, well, I would say a few, more than a few samples, and some of the final prototypes as well that I thought would be really nice to show. I also have some of like original kind of sketches where you can see that I was looking at it this way, like kind of like the way the cutlery sits on the edge, and like thinking about different like placements and arrangements of chopsticks sitting horizontally and Western cutlery vertically, and how we can kind of like merge that together in Oku's design. I can explain a little bit about samples if there's any samples that you've got your eye on as well. Feel free to point them out.
Well, certainly you were explaining a little bit to me earlier on about how the process changed. Yes, you had to develop. It's deceptively simple, but it went through.
Oh, it went through many phases. So it was basically as a design. This is a kind of like a 3D printed model, and so the design, it was really important that it rested on the edge of the board, like so. Here you can see with the strap, but it also, I wanted it to be able to hook onto the edge of a plate, and you can also put it inside the dish as well. It can be sat flat like a normal table knife, and I also, this is a butter knife, so it is, it's not sharp, it's blunt, so it's safe. So you can also put it like that, so it hygienically keeps whatever you've been spreading off of the table. So as it had to have quite a few different functions, the balance was really, really important. So we tried like, you know, like changing the length of the handle, changing the length of the blade, and also we had to kind of, because it is being made like bending, we had to be able to shave down the blade as well before we bent it. So that was where Simon's talking about testing out the process. So originally, we started with welding. So these are just a few little samples here done with welding, because we thought that would be the best way. We can kind of shave down the blade and then we weld them together. And simple, but not that simple. So we kind of went back to the drawing board after we figured out the perfect dimensions and also the thickness of the steel, etc. And we decided to move to actually bending. So we had to consult with a few different factories to get the right strength of press. Like the tonnage is really important, I think, so that it can press the steel. So we ended up just doing it all in one piece, which actually I think adds to the design and makes it more interesting. It is literally just bent as it looks. So yeah, there's a few different samples here where you can kind of see that there's stamps on the inside as well. So
which is the earliest piece in here?
The earliest piece.
You mentioned something that you've made yourself.
Ah, this is like I mean, this is made from brass. I'm not facing the camera very well. So yeah, this one is made from brass, which I would just make in my studio by myself, and then we would do some kind of 3D printing, mock-up, and also wooden samples as well. But of course, there's only a certain, like, I guess there's a limit to making them in plastic and wood because you can't feel the balance. So you really need to move to making them in metal as soon as possible after you've figured out the dimensions really. Mm-hmm.
We have these here, for example.
Ah, yeah, this one. This is like so different from how the shape developed. But I actually made this sample at Royal College of Art. which is, I mean, you can see it's like developed like tenfold. So this was like actually my first idea was to make it like a balance, like on the edge, like, you know, literally balance, but I thought that was kind of a little bit strange. So it's also not very stable, I think, to do something like that. So we kept it so that it's stronger and balances perfectly in the center.
Well, thank you, thank you. We have versions on the table as well, I can see, in different woods.
Yes, so there's 3 different woods that are made in partnership with Karimoku Furniture, which is one of Japan's leading furniture manufacturers. I've got like a few small samples as well of like some of the little like scrap woods, etc. that we were looking at. So I managed to, in 2022, after the Dezeen Award, I was connected with Karimoku Furniture, and we thought that the size of like Oku's board would be really, really good to try to utilize wood offcuts and also wood that's underutilized in furniture making. So we picked 3 woods for Oku's boards, and yeah, I can explain a little bit about in the next slide, maybe about the
What are the woods actually?
the woods.
So shall we go to there? Thank you.
So we have the woods here. So the top one is we've got Sakura, and then we've got on the right, we've got Sawara, and then we've got at the bottom, Hinoki. And they're all made, as you can see, the strips here, they're all made from wood offcut. And so every board is completely unique. And Karimoku they're very skilled. They're based in Aichi Prefecture, the factory. And they're recreating like a natural wood grain pattern using these strips. So it's really, really well thought out. Like you can kind of, for me, it's difficult to tell that it's not all one piece unless you look at the side. So we have 2 softwoods, and then the Sakura at the top is a hardwood. And I can talk a little bit about sustainability here.
Yes, please do. Yes,
Yeah.
indeed. These trees are for this energy.
So yeah, this is an image from one of Karimoku's factories. Yeah, this is the softwood forest. So Karimoku are really, really focused on innovative ways to conserve forests and utilize and project like the beauty of Japanese woods like overseas as well. So we've tried as much as possible to be sustainable in Oku's production, and on the right side as well, we've got a shot of the factory, and both the wood and the metal is made under the Sustainable Development Goals by the Ministry of Foreign Affairs of Japan. So about reducing production and consumption and energy efficiency, etc.
Yeah, it's a hot topic.
Yeah.
At the moment within manufacturing, definitely.
Yeah, definitely. In Tsubame-Sanjo, they're always really focused on keeping it in the SDGs, which is really important, very honorable.
Here.
So here's a few slides, some collaborations with restaurants and chefs. So on the left-hand side, after Oku won the Dezeen Award, and then we started working with Karimoku, I had my first order, actually before it was even on the market, which was really exciting with Nublo, which is a Michelin star restaurant in Haro in Spain. So this is they're using it in their restaurant for butter and serving it to their guests. This one is a Sakura board with the Oku knife. And then on the right-hand side, this is a collab. This is actually butter, although it looks like tomatoes. So this is a German magazine and a collaboration with a chef as well. So I've been very lucky to be able to not just have Oku as a product, but kind of dive a little bit into like a culinary theme, etc., which would be great to explore a bit more in the future.
Very good.
So these are a few extra images just showing Oku's function and the wood by Karimoku. So for me, I guess Oku isn't just about the product. Like obviously it's great to showcase the design, but it has like to me, of course, a personal and rich story. And the links to Tsubame-Sanjo, and especially for this year's London Design Festival, we've gone kind of full circle, haven't we? How many years has it been? Six?
Yes,
Yeah,
exactly.
6 years, and here we are, we're back and showcasing the design. So for me, it's really important to I want to create like a community and a story and really be able to promote and also, you know, like support the industry in Tsubame-Sanjo and also Karimoku, etc. to, you know, not only a British audience, but further afield as well. So that's kind of what we're hoping to do next after the launch, incorporate that as much as possible. It's very dear to me.
It's dear to us.
I know, and dear to you, of course.
Your involvement very much so at Japan House. And it takes somebody like you, I think, to be able to create these collaborations with people that would not normally collaborate with themselves. What's this?
So this is going like surprise, going on to just a different project as well. I thought it would be nice to showcase something that I'm working on and hoping to develop next year. So this is actually a series of plates, and also there's some vessels that I'm producing in partnership with factory in Toyama and Takaoka. We're a very famous region for metal casting, especially in low metals like tin and pewter. So we're kind of harnessing the potential of ancient chuzo, which is centrifugal casting. And I'm trying to create these plates that are capturing memories about my grandmother, etc. So this is more like art pieces. So these are actually made by spinning a glass plate on like a rotation. Like I'm using a pottery wheel right now and pouring the metal, so it kind of like spins and spins and spins and creates a casting with the real pressed flowers in between the glass and the metal, which is maybe sounds mad when you say it like that, but hoping that it looks like a interesting and poetic piece.
So the flowers are sandwiched between.
Exactly. So we have to get, that's why it's so interesting to learn from the factory people in Toyama, because they're experts in the low melting point metals. So we have to get the temperature just perfect so the glass doesn't break and the flowers don't burn. And this is another piece, which is again harnessing the power of low melting point metal. So this is actually a real moth. It looks obviously huge there, but it's about this size. The moth is very, very big. So this kind of work is kind of inspired again by ornamentation in Chinese and also Japanese ceramics, and kind of looking at symbols of the afterlife. And the Japanese silk moth is also a symbol of good luck. So kind of trying to encast like this very fragile and poetic being in a metal to create this kind of relic-like state that can kind of, I'm trying to capture the transient or fleeting nature of life. And these are a few actual images from the factory floor in Toyama Hanya casting. So this is a successful one here on the right-hand side where we managed to spin. So you can see the mold. It's like a sand mold. And we're putting the glass inside, and then we're pouring the metal in the top and literally spinning it around and around and around until it like shoots up the top. So in the future, I'm hoping that the flowers will be trapped between the glass and the tin, but we haven't got to that stage yet. And in the middle, like all things, there's a lot of trial and error. This one is broken, but it's still, I think, very beautiful and important to test out things like this.
How long do you think it will take before you succeed here?
So I'm actually in the process of making a new big plates. We're trying to make ones a meter in diameter with a craftsman in Sumida in Tokyo. And I'm hoping that we will do them by next year. By the end of next year.
Good luck indeed. Thank you very much. I think that is the last.
Yes, thank you.
This whistle stop tour through Kathleen's 6 years since you came to Japan House.
6 years in 30 minutes or so.
Yeah. And you're now living in Japan, of course.
Yes, it's my 5th year this year.
You made your home there. so far. So
far.
We have time for some questions, if anybody does have any. We also have our viewers online, so I'll be accessing that through my phone. But yes, we can start with, yes, we have. If you could take the microphone, thank you, so that the people online can hear as well. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much for the presentation. I still remember that exhibition. It was amazing. I'm very curious about your experience after studying in Glasgow and then in London and working here and then moving there. What was similar, but especially what was different of learning and practicing in Tsubame-Sanjo? Thanks.
Thank you. It's a really good question, actually. I mean, growing up in Glasgow, and I moved to Japan like early 20s. So I've not, like I said, I've been there for 5 years. It was completely different. And it was really, that was why the Daiwa scholarship also came in like at the perfect time. And it was really important to go through that process. As culturally, I've learned like trust and patience and really like learning about each other. It's not just about, I want to go and make this. Let's make it now. You know, you need to have like honest dialogues together and really understand each other, which I find like really important because, you know, the factory craftspeople, for me, they want to have a relationship with you that can go on for tens of years. Like they're passing down their knowledge to generations and generations, which for me personally, I can't speak for everyone, it's quite different to the UK. But when I was like, I've gone to a manufacturer, say, I want to make this, can we make it now? And we just make it, and that's kind of it. But for me, it's really been personal relationships and building trust together in Japan, which is also, it can be really inspiring. Like it can lead you to, you know, the design actually has probably changed in specific ways, thanks to these relationships that I've built in Tsubame-Sanjo and beyond. So I hope that answers your question. Thank
It's a very important point, actually, isn't it? Personal relationships in Japan are so important.
Yeah.
In creating something together.
Yeah.
Thank you very much indeed. We do have another question here. If you could put your hand up so we can get the microphone to you. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I think it's amazing what you're doing. Your designs are incredible, and I'm so glad that you're helping the industry over there. How are they, Tsubame-Sanjo or wherever, how are they promoting themselves? I mean, it talks about it's great that you know people overseas enjoy what you've been doing and the exhibition that was amazing here. But you know, I'm concerned not just about that industry, but other traditional crafts in Japan, and they seem to be quite. I have some experience with that. Seem to be quite reticent, and I can't imagine Japanese people spending, like most people, wouldn't spend a lot of money on a piece of art or even something that's very functional, like your knife necessarily, right? But so I'm kind of thinking, you know, they really need to push themselves well, if you could talk about your own industry or Japanese industry, what they're doing to promote that further, because otherwise it's going to die out. And, you know, the craftsmen, well, there's some young guys there, but, you know, everyone's getting older, and I'm kind of concerned about that. So talk to that, please.
Thank you. I just want to clarify, is it within Japan or, you know, in general, Japan and overseas? And well, I mean, going back to Tsubame-Sanjo, from the cutlery aspect, I think like 90% of Japan's cutlery is produced in Tsubame-Sanjo. It is quite thriving in that industry. But of course, there is like small individual workshops where it's not 90% of the cutlery in Japan is by them. So it's a really important question and something that needs to be considered. In my experience, like thinking more about, you know, overseas, we've got Japan House London as an amazing initiative who promoted Koba and the biology of metal exhibition. And then there's initiatives like, you know, Japan Creative, which has been running since 2011, which are combining like Beitugu, Forma Phantasma, like big designers, big game with Suwada, who's also a forging company in Sanjo, and together to promote materiality and Japanese craftsmanship, not only in Japan, but also abroad. And then they have the new initiative, which they're also showing at the V&A for London Design Festival called Craftsmanship. I don't know if you've heard of that, which is not products, which is, or material, well, it is about materiality, but I think Japan Creative is a little bit more focused on products, whereas craftsmanship is about creating art. So there is definitely initiatives out there that I'm aware of and that I'm really interested in. But I don't know, Simon, if you have anything you want to add, because it is also an important thing that needs to be addressed for smaller workshops, I guess, that might not be able to sustain themselves for a long time.
You saw in the film maybe at the beginning that Midouchi-san, who was nearly 80, who created the wagami sori, the Japanese razors for hairstyle, the hairstyle, for example, which his razors are highly valued. He's never out of work. You have to wait months to go on the waiting list to get them. He was a single worker in a very small workshop in Tsubame-Sanjo. He exhibited here, and at nearly 80, he was, there was no apprentice, and when he died, that would all die out. And he mentions in the film that he was so surprised at the result, how people reacted to his work. I suppose our work, our job is to, as part of these initiatives, is to make people aware outside of the community. He said he wouldn't take an apprentice because he was too old, but as a result of the Biology of Metal exhibition and the recognition that it got, he changed his mind. The town of Sanjo got behind it and found a young man who just graduated from high school who wanted to become his apprentice.
Yeah, I remember hearing about that. It's a really beautiful story.
And so now there are two of them, and the wagami sori manufacture will continue for the next. So as a result, I think visibility is important.
Yeah, of course.
So all of these initiatives that you're mentioning as well are giving visibility to people. As much as we can do that, I think, then hopefully things will go forward.
Yeah.
I have a question here on Zoom.
Oh, yeah,
if I remember it. I've just logged out, unfortunately. But it says, is Oku available in the UK?
Yeah, so it's actually available. We have a special limited amount at Japan House London in celebration of this talk and London Design Festival. I'm also doing an exhibition which opens this evening from 6 on Brick Lane at a place called Galleria Objet. And there's a limited amount that will be for sale there if anyone is interested. And then we have a first edition online that will hopefully be rolling out in November. So you can pre-order online as well.
Thank you. I mean, this goes on to another question I have on Zoom as well, but we're talking about, you're making a product, yes?
Yeah.
So you need to make numbers, and they need to be available for people to make. You mentioned that prior to the creation of Oku, this is a question from Zoom, that you were thinking of yourself as mostly as an artist.
Yeah.
Not as a product designer.
Yeah.
How about now?
So this is my first product. I would always consider myself artist, metalworker. I still would think I'm an artist and a metalworker. I didn't study product design, so I wouldn't come out and say that, but the materiality of metal is really important to me, and that's obviously translated into this object as is metal. So I would not, still would not flip and say that I'm a product designer, but I mean, studying in Tsubame-Sanjo, and you can, the amount of time that's passed since the biology of metals show, I had to learn so much about product design and manufacturing to create Oku, and of course I consider myself an artist, so I guess that's why it took the amount of time that it did, because it was also important for me to feel like I was at that level to release a design coming from I studied fine art degree, so. Does that answer the question?
I think so. I'd like to know, though, are there any more products in the pipeline?
Everyone's asking me this. I would love to make more products. And to be honest, this is a very honest thing to say. I was foolishly not aware how long a product actually takes. Working with Karimoku has been a really interesting and insightful experience, because it takes years to design a chair, for example, from the sketch to then you've got all the tests and then to release it. So I would love to. I need to be able to have the kind of space and the opportunity to let myself create something else. But I definitely would love to. I need to give myself time.
Thank you. Do we have any? Yes, we do. I think probably we've got time for two more questions. So we have one question here. If you could keep your hand, and then also at the back, in the front here. Thank you so much.
Yes, thank you very much for the interesting talk. As an artist, from your perspective, how do you differentiate the cutlery being made in Sheffield, traditional place to making cutlery, from that of Tsubame-Sanjo, that they have their tradition. So what's the difference between the two products being made?
I mean, I know a lot about Sheffield, having studied metalwork in the UK, and for me, relating it back to Oku, the design is, of course, inspired by Japanese place setting and arrangement. So it was really important for me to make it in Japan, and the whole journey and story to then like be kind of reflected into the design. For me, as like an honest opinion, again, like, Japanese cutlery, chopsticks for one, and also metal flatware is a lot lighter, isn't it? Like compared to British flatware. So Sheffield, this would just be my off the bat opinion. For me, I have a kind of more ornate, traditional, I guess like vision or like identity associated to it with like a lot of weight. So that's something that for me, I think wouldn't fit with Oku's concept and the story around it. Although I can appreciate, of course, both manufacturing industries as they are, but just relating it back to the design. I hope that kind of answers for it. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And of course, you saw in the film as well, Blenheim Forge here in
Yeah.
quite coincidentally met people from Tsubame-Sanjo when they were here, and that's all the celebrations you saw in that film were the result of them having made a personal connection and going to Tsubame-Sanjo, but to learn the different ways, and rather than in a British tradition.
Yeah, it can really impact the design.
We have one more question maybe at the back. If you could keep your hand up so we can get the microphone to you. Thank you.
Hello, and thank you very much for a beautiful presentation. It's a truly craftsmanship and the shapes in terms of shape and form. My question is about language. Was the language barrier a big deal? Sorry, I don't know whether you speak Japanese or not. Or was the language a big deal, or was it naturally entwined in design process and you feel comfortable? How was it? I mean, between different languages and different culture.
I mean, yeah, the language.
Thank you.
Oh, no, thank you so much for the question. The language was so important. Like, I'm still not fluent in Japanese, but I'm confident to say that I'm pretty good. So, like living
I think you're being very humble.
Don't ask me to reply to the question in Japanese. So yeah, I would definitely, I mean, being in Tsubame-Sanjo for as long as I was, like, it was so important for me to be able to talk. Like I said, in Oizumi Bisan's factory, it was like, I was in the office and then, 10 seconds later, I was in the factory and I could have like direct dialogues. Like if I wanted to ask a question about polishing, I wanted to ask a question about the weight of something, I could, if I could speak to the factory people. So it was like, thank you again to the Daiwa Foundation for putting me through Japanese language school, but it was so important that I was able to do that. And there's like such a different, like speaking to a translator is obviously great, but there's so many different like things that culturally and body language wise, and just even like, sentence structure, the nuances that you aren't able to fully understand, I guess, without even a basic knowledge of Japanese. So for the design, it was so important. And I think it probably wouldn't have developed the way it did if I didn't have the ability to speak Japanese directly with the craft people. Thank you for your question.
No, thank you. And I think it's an important point. I should stress probably the Daiwa scholarship program allows scholars to learn Japanese first and then embark on their specialism after that in order to equip them I think an excellent program in order for a diverse number of people with different specialisms to take part in life in Japan.
Yeah, it's truly I'd say cheesy, but a life-changing experience to be able to go through that and be supported by the foundation. So, yeah.
No, thank you. It seems to have worked, doesn't it? Definitely, you're here in Japan. I think that is all we have time for, I'm afraid, today. Please remember that if you fancy oku on your kitchen table, then you can go upstairs to the Japan House London shop, or you can visit the exhibition in the gallery.
Yeah, you can also visit Brick Lane, the Galleria Objet. So we're on for the full period, 14th to 22nd. The opening is also tonight. If anyone's around East London, we've got some nice drinks too. And actually, we've brought over a selection of objects from Tsubame-Sanjo. So it won't just be oku. We have, like I said, really want to support the community. So we've got a few different items that you can learn about the craftspeople techniques and also purchase them as well. So please do come along if you're in the area.
No, thank you. Thank you very much. Please join me in thanking Kathleen Reilly. Thank you. Thank you very much. No, thank you. Kathleen's very dear to us here at Japan House London. The Tsubame-Sanjo theme continues upstairs. We have some hose which are from Tsubame-Sanjo. You saw them maybe in the film as well. We have 3, and the magic metal, which I know that your peers, yes, are very fond of. So please do have a look at that. Something not to do with metal, but something that we're doing next week. Please do come and join us for a talk about disaster recovery with the fire brigade from Orfanato. And our next exhibition is called Looks Delicious, Exploring Japan's Food Replica Culture, which starts on the 2nd of October in the gallery on the lower ground floor here in Japan House. Thank you very much for joining us here in Japan House London and online. And once again, thank you very much to Kathleen Reilly. Thank you.
Thanks to all you guys as well.